Hey man, you want to listen to Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon on vinyl? Sure, I would love to listen to Pink Floyd on vinyl because it's 2025 and physical media. Sweet. Let's put it on. Vinyl is very weird in 2025. All jokes aside, static electricity is something that vinyl collectors have to deal with, among other things, and the HumminGuru Orbit could be the answer. So let's check it out, testing it with one of these, which is an electrostatic meter, to see if it helps at all. Quick disclaimer here, HumminGuru did send me this Orbit to try out and test to make a video for you guys. I do get to keep it, so I'm not calling this a review, but I will give my honest thoughts on this. Now, even though they did send me this, I felt the need to go out and get one of these, an electrostatic meter, just to see if this thing was doing anything or if it just looked cool on top of my records. Now, these things are not cheap, so please consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps a lot. First, let's open this up and see what you get out of the box. First out of the box, we have a quick start guide and a brush to clean the unit. They also provide a USB-C cable for charging, followed by the HumminGuru Orbit itself. And they're also including these little spindle adapters, since some turntables have larger center posts on your turntable and it might not sit flush with the records. I'm actually glad that they include a quick start guide with this, or at least some type of directions for this, because a lot of other anti-static units out there that I see do not, and it's actually kind of a mystery as to how you actually even properly use them. And since static electricity is invisible and you might not have one of these meters, you should have some guidance at least on how to properly use one of these devices. Not that using an anti-static device will harm your vinyl in any way, at least I don't think it will. Using the Orbit is very straightforward and something I actually like a lot about this, again, compared to other anti-static units out there. This one goes directly on the turntable instead of you picking up the record. So first you place your record down on the turntable, and then you place the provided spindles that they have if you need them on top of the label, and then put the Orbit on the spindle pad. It should be flush with the pad, or if you don't need the pad, it should at least be flush with your label. And be sure that you have enough room around the Orbit to make sure that it turns and doesn't hit your tone arm or anything else like that on your system. There is a power button and 4 LED lights that shows the Orbit's charge. It holds a charge for a while. In fact, I've never had to charge it again since the first time I've used it. After you push the main power button, it'll start spinning and give 10 full rotations, firing ions at the record surface the entire time. Now, these ions are what eliminates the static, and when it's done, you're ready to listen to your record. What I like about that is that it's pretty automatic, so you don't have to worry about how far away you're holding it or how close, and you don't have to worry about how long you're doing it either. Every time it's exactly the same amount of time. Now, this is all basic and fine, but why do we actually need an anti-static unit like this? Depending on your situation, you might not have a lot of static buildup in your listening environment. If you live in cold, dry climates, however, this can be a huge issue, and for some people, it's a very big issue. The buildup of static over the record can actually be picked up by the super sensitive cartridge, and it causes very annoying ticks. They're not so much pops like you would hear with dirt or scratches, but in my opinion, it's like constant random little ticks that'll come out of nowhere and continue to happen. And you can confirm that they're static ticks by replaying the record on the same spot, and if the sound kind of goes away, it's probably not dirt or a scratch. Now, I live in the Northeast in the Philadelphia area of the United States, and it gets super dry and cold in the winter, and there are times when I even get small electric shocks as I'm just getting up off of my couch to go flip the record. I notice when I go to touch the turntable or like any metal around the turntable, I'll get a small little shock. Also, the buildup of static can actually attract dust and dirt particles to the vinyl, which can lead to actual lasting damage. So static is not a good thing to have in the setup. So does this thing actually work? Well, in short, yes, but I was hoping to provide some more like very concrete tests. I went out and bought this electrostatic meter. I'll show you the results first, and then you can decide for yourself, and then I'll kind of talk to this a little bit after the fact. I found a great record in my collection that I've actually never cleaned before, and it has one of those glossy inner sleeves in it that are extremely prone to static electricity a lot. So we're just gonna show it here, using it and showing exactly the results and what we get. And this is also good too, because this is very similar to what you might do if you don't have any kind of cleaning methods or something like that, but you have a lot of static electricity problems. You can see if the HumminGuru Orbit is gonna help you. And I can already feel, just pulling this out of the sleeve, that there is static electricity on this thing. I would highly recommend replacing these glossy record sleeves when you get them with an anti-static sleeve. Don't throw out the sleeve, just keep it inside of the jacket, but replace it with an anti-static sleeve. So I'm gonna put this record down here. Again, this record's never been cleaned, and I'm putting it down on my very nice clean turntable, which I usually never put anything down on that hasn't been cleaned before. So please subscribe to the channel and like this video if you're enjoying any of these results. So we're putting it right down here. We're gonna turn on the meter here, and this meter functions at 0, so you set it to 0 there. We can see that it's set to 0. So now it's zeroed out, and right away, it's kind of tough to read because it's upside down, but it's 1.0, or it's 1 point at those moments. Up here, it's less, if you can see it around here, and these results back here. Over here, we're getting 0. Right here, we're getting 1.2. So this record seems to not have a lot of static on it. So we're gonna use the HumminGuru Orbit and see what its results are. I do have a higher spindle here on my RT85, so we do need to use the adapter. We put the adapter down here, and then we put this right on top of it flat, and we turn it on. We can see that we have full power, and we're gonna set it to go and let it run. So that finished, and we are going to set this back to 0. As you can see, it's back to 0 there. We're showing a 0 result. All these spots here prior to that run all had a 1 point something, or at least a half of something. So I'm not getting any static electricity. Right there, I got a 0.1 reading right there. Up here in the front was where it was reading at 2 point something before. So we have a 0 reading at this point. This is another one that I haven't cleaned. This is the In Sound from Way Out from Perry Kingsley. And this cover was actually used and copied by the Beastie Boys for their record, the In Sound from Way Out, which is a collection of instrumentals that they have. It's a very awesome record. But again, this is in its original paper sleeve. It's got the original Vanguard paper sleeve, which is pretty cool. I never even realized, first of all, I never even realized this was a Vanguard label, and also that this was in a Vanguard paper sleeve. But I've never cleaned this record before either, so this is very similar to like the last one that we're trying out. So we're gonna just throw it onto the turntable here. Again, I would highly suggest not using original paper sleeves. I would highly suggest going out and getting anti-static sleeves. There's always a link in the description below for the anti-static sleeves that I use, but I'll make sure that there's one more pronounced in there if you want to go check that out. Again, affiliate links from Amazon, because I'm trying to do stuff with this channel, but thank you very much if you use them. And again, keep the original paper sleeves or vocal sleeves that they give you, just don't use them to actually touch the record. So here again, we have the static meter, and we're gonna hit the function 0 to 0 it out. Wow, this one's got a lot of static to it. This one, as you can see, has a lot of static electricity was coming up. I just saw a 3, there we go. There's a 3.7 happening right there. That just got up into the 3s. This is the most static electricity. There's a 3.84. So this is one of the highest results that I've seen with this device. So I'm glad that, wow, we just got a 5 over here. Yeah, 6. Okay, cool. So we're getting some great results here. 8. Look at that, 8. Okay, you can see that on the camera there, 8. Let's take our spindle, throw it on there, and we throw this on here. I still have it even turned on from the last time. We're gonna hit start and try to take away the static. All right, so that thing just finished up. We're gonna set our static meter to 0. So we saw an 8.0 result back here, and now we're seeing 0 all the way around this record, which is pretty awesome. This is actually a very definitive result, and I'm actually shocked that it's giving me this definitive result, which is very cool. So it eliminated all of the static on this thing. And again, what I really like here too is the fact that it's eliminating the static while it's on the record here. So if we go to just play this record right now, there would be zero static at all on this record. If I point it very, very, very tight to the record, I got a 0.1 right there. But that was at the same spot where before we were getting over a 9. So as you can see, there's a very good result happening here. I'm gonna show one more record here, which is one that I have cleaned. Also a great record, Brain Story from Big Crown Records. This is Sounds Good. Definitely should go check out this record when you get a chance. But this record I've already cleaned, and I use a Hudson Hi-Fi anti-static sleeve with it. So we'll see what the results are with this before using the HumminGuru Orbit, and then we'll see what the results are after using it. So putting it right down on the table here, anti-static meter is set to 0, and checking it right away, right in the front here, it's got a 6.9, 7.2, 9, wow, that's a 10. So right away we're seeing very high results for static. Wow, 12, I've never even seen. It's amazing that I've been using these anti-static sleeves and I'm getting higher results with the anti-static sleeves than I were with records that were dirty. This one over here is an 11, that's a 12. So we're gonna use our spindle and set up the orbit on this and hit go to try to eliminate this static. The HumminGuru finished up. We're gonna set our anti-static meter to 0. As you can see, it's at 0. And testing it out here, we have a 0 result. I'm gonna take this off. Almost all the way around it, there's a 0 result. You can see here, 0.1, 0.2. This thing was popping off the charts with a 12, and now it's down to 0. So you can see that this thing is definitely working and definitely doing stuff. As you can see in the results, it looks like the meter is showing a reduction in static. And to also confirm with this, I will show a very basic test using a paper towel so that you can just kind of see that the paper towel is not being attracted to the record after using the HumminGuru Orbit. And I'm really just showing this to show a different way that this thing could be tested if you don't have one of these very expensive meters. And I got another here in the collection to do a very unscientific test with a paper towel where you can see if the paper towel is pulling static electricity on it. And again, this is a good one because this already, I can feel static electricity pulling on this very, very glossy lyric sleeve that came with this Genesis record. So you pull it out here, and again, this is just like it would be if you were to buy it off of the street. As you can see, it is very much pulling on this paper towel because there's a lot of static electricity on this record, and we'll also double check that when we use the meter, but you can even see it right there. We're gonna look at that. Look how much that's pulling. So we'll take this, put it down right onto the record player, and real quick, we'll actually use the meter here to see the meter's at 0, and to just double check this to see we're getting 5.7, 5.8, 6.3, 8.2. This is a never cleaned before record. It's just straight out of the very glossy sleeve. It's getting an 8.10. There's a 11, 12. I'm 13. I'm getting a 13 reading on this. So now we're going to take the HumminGuru Orbit and run it very simply and see what our result is. So we just finished up running the HumminGuru Orbit. We're going to take it off here and just do the basic paper towel test to see if it's still pulling electricity. Now, it doesn't seem to be pulling it as much, but it looks like there's a little bit of a pull, but not even nearly as much as it was. Like, this isn't even close. Now, granted, I also only did one side of the record here, so the other side of the record could also be causing some static electricity pulling, but as you can see here, it's not even close to what it was in the first result. So that is a clear result that this thing is clearly working and clearly doing its job. And I'm glad that it's actually showing these results live, because I have been using this thing a few times and it's taken me a few times to actually get a good result, but I'm really glad that it's actually showing you guys what we're seeing. Now, talking about this meter itself here for a second, this is kind of a different model than I've seen out there for most of them. I've seen usually a light gray one, and I picked up this one because it was actually a little bit cheaper. These things run almost like $200 to $250 sometimes, but this one has a 0 function on it. So you push the button to 0 and then you just hold it over the element that you're trying to see if it has static electricity or not, and it gives you your reading. Now, I was kind of hoping to have something that had a button to push as I was holding down to show that like something was happening, because I don't know if this thing is even doing anything or not. It seems to show a result, but the results don't also seem to be very consistent. I don't think it's the HumminGuru device. I think this thing is working just fine. And when I use tests of this with just like a basic paper towel test, you can clearly see that there's no more static electricity involved on the vinyl. If you know more about these electrostatic meters, let me know in the comments below if I'm using this thing correctly or not, or if I'm not using it correctly or not, or if I even have the right model here or whatever I'm doing. I don't know. Another thing to talk about here is I wet clean all of my records most of the time before I play them, or at least definitely before their first play. And I use anti-static sleeves as well. So for me, since I've started using a good cleaning solution, like either vacuum cleaning or ultrasonic cleaning, I've not actually noticed a lot of static electricity buildup on my vinyl itself, or even hearing those little ticks that I was talking about. As I mentioned before, though, one thing I do really like about this is the fact that they've designed it to work on the table and not by you holding the record, which in my opinion really can take out a lot of the human error, but also I do feel like whenever you're taking the record off or on the table, you could be creating or discharging more static electricity. So when you're putting it down onto the table and then putting this down directly on that before you play your record, I think that's the better way to go. And I think it's smarter to actually shoot all of the ions onto the record while it's on the table. I also reached out to HumminGuru to see about more details, like should you run this before every single spin of every record? And they say no. And in my usage, I found to only run it when I heard those annoying static little ticks or pops that I was talking about. I use Ortofon cartridges and they're extremely sensitive to static. So if I start hearing it, I will stop the record and I will run this. And I've noticed that the pops do go away immediately. And to those people who say that they love vinyl for the pops and clicks, you are wrong. Vinyl should not have pops or clicks. You clean your records and use one of these and get all that crap out of there because it sounds like crap. Pops or clicks are not part of the experience. I don't care what anyone says. Also, I did ask them as well about the brush with it and like how much you should clean this thing. And they basically just said after about 10 or 11 uses, use the brush to just clean off the little fans that are in the bottom of it, the little vent area. And you don't have to take the unit apart or anything like that. There's no filters or anything like that that you have to deal with. So it's a pretty basic cleaning or maintenance for this thing, besides just keeping it charged, which again, like I said, this thing holds a charge a lot. I've used this thing probably like 30 times at least, and I've never had to recharge it. If you get a lot of static issues, definitely consider the HumminGuru Orbit. The HumminGuru Orbit is another great tool to have in your arsenal to get the most out of your pieces of vinyl. There are links for this in the description below if you want to purchase one. Those are affiliate links, which means if you happen to use one of those links, I get a little bit of the portion of the sale, which is really awesome, and I tremendously thank you for in advance. If you enjoyed this video, definitely consider watching one of these videos to check out some other cleaning devices or other things for your vinyl collection. I'm gonna go listen to some very static-free pieces of vinyl with my HumminGuru Orbit. I will see you on the next one.